The final battle took place in Earth's solar system, where massive fleets of both timelines faced each other among the planets where humanity first learned to dream. The Void Dominion's ultimate weapon, a device capable of destabilizing the sun itself, hung in space like a dark star. Captain Yoon Seojin led the assault on the weapon platform while the main fleet engaged the enemy battleships. The fighting was fierce, with ships from both timelines pushing their technology to the breaking point. But the real battle was being fought on a deeper level, a battle for the soul of humanity itself. The final authority materialized on the bridge of the human flagship, its form a twisted shadow of what humanity could become. "You don't understand," it spoke in a voice like dying stars. "In our timeline, we consumed entire galaxies. We became monsters that the universe itself feared. We're trying to save reality from what you will become." Admiral Cho Yuna faced the dark being that her species might one day become. "You're wrong," she said firmly. "You didn't become monsters because you were human. You became monsters because you forgot how to be human. You forgot love, hope, sacrifice for others. You chose power over everything else." The final authority laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "And what do you choose? What makes you think your path will be different?" But as it spoke, something unexpected happened. The human crews across the fleet began to sing, an old song from Earth about home and hope and never giving up. The sound somehow reached through space, carried by the same force that powered their weapons. One by one, members of the Void Dominion began to remember what they had lost. Some of them had once been children who sang the same songs, who had dreamed of stars and adventure rather than conquest and destruction. Dr. An Min-soo, working frantically to disable the solar weapon, made a crucial discovery. The device wasn't just meant to destroy the sun, it was a doorway back to the future timeline. If they could reverse its polarity, they could send the Void Dominion back to their own time while sealing the temporal pathway forever. But doing so would require someone to stay behind and manually control the device. It was a one-way trip and everyone knew it. Without hesitation, Captain Lee Min-ho volunteered. "Someone has to make sure our future stays bright," he said simply. As the Void Dominion forces began their retreat through the closing temporal gateway, the final authority made one last attempt to complete its mission. But it was stopped by something it had never expected: forgiveness. The human crews didn't hate their dark future selves. They pitied them, and in that pity was the promise that this timeline would choose a different path. The gateway closed with a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. The Void Dominion was gone, sent back to their own dark timeline with the knowledge that somewhere, somewhen, humanity had chosen hope over despair. The solar system was safe, the timeline secured. In the aftermath, as humanity began to rebuild and reach for the stars once again, they carried with them the knowledge of what they must never become. They had seen their darkest possible future and chosen to walk a different path. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity would explore it not as conquerors, but as dreamers who never forgot the songs of home. Hope had been lost the moment they faced the battleship, but in the end, hope was exactly what had saved them all. Deep in the ruins of Research Station Omega-7, scientist Dr. Lim Tae-hyung crawled through twisted metal and broken corridors, searching for anything that might help humanity survive. The station had been one of the first targets hit by the Void Dominion, and the destruction was complete. Most people would have seen only wreckage and death, but Dr. Lim had spent his entire life studying alien technology, and he knew what to look for. Among the scattered debris, he found pieces of metal that did not belong to human technology. They were fragments from the alien attackers mixed with human components in ways that should have been impossible. "This makes no sense," he muttered to himself as he carefully extracted a strange hybrid piece from the wreckage. The metal seemed to respond to his touch, glowing softly with an inner light when his fingers made contact with its surface. Dr. Lim set up a temporary laboratory in the least damaged section of the station using portable equipment he had brought from Earth. His initial scans of the alien fragments revealed something that made his hands shake. The technology was not completely alien at all. Hidden within, the advanced alien systems were design patterns that looked familiar. Mathematical, structures that reminded him of human engineering principles but evolved far beyond anything current humanity could build. It was as if someone had taken human technology and developed it for thousands of years. The more he studied the fragments, the more disturbed he became. The alien metal contained materials that existed in human space, but arranged in ways that suggested knowledge of human mining techniques. Human energy signatures flowed through alien circuits following paths that looked like evolved versions of human computer designs. Commander Bei Soman arrived at the ruined station 3 days later, with a team of experts including linguist Oh Jinwoo, who had been working around the clock to decode Void Dominion communications. Her ship, the Resilience, carried some of humanity. Best minds all desperate to find some weakness in their seemingly invincible enemy. Dr. Lim led them through his makeshift laboratory, showing them discovery after discovery that challenged everything. They thought they knew about their attackers. "Look at this energy pattern," he said, pointing to readings on his scanner. "It identical to the power signature used in our newest fusion reactors, but amplified by a factor of 10,000. But that impossible," said Chief Engineer Park Hee-jin. "We invented fusion technology only 50 years ago. How could aliens have evolved versions of our own inventions that when Dr. Lim dropped the bombshell that would change everything? Because they are not aliens," he said quietly. "They are us." The silence in the ruined laboratory was deafening. Commander Bei stared at him as if he had lost his mind. "What do you mean?" "They are us." Dr. Lim activated his main display, showing detailed scans of the hybrid technology. "Every piece I have analyzed contains human DNA signatures embedded in the metal itself. The mathematical structures follow human thought patterns. The energy flows match human neural pathways. These are not alien invaders. These are human beings, but they look nothing like us." Oh Jinwoo protested that when the linguist made his own breakthrough, he had been working on the communication patterns for weeks, and suddenly the pieces fell into place. The language structures, the mathematical sequences, the underlying logic patterns. They were all human, not current human, he explained excitedly. But they follow the same basic cognitive patterns that our brains use. The complexity is incredible, far beyond anything we can achieve now. But the foundation is definitely human. Commander Bei felt the world spinning around her as the implications became clear. "You are saying that the Void Dominion is made up of human beings? From where, from when?" Dr. Lim pulled up his most disturbing findings yet. According to the temporal energy signatures embedded in their technology, they come from approximately 800 years in our future. They are our descendants. The discovery hit the team like a physical blow. They were not facing alien conquerors. They were facing their own future selves. But how had humanity changed so much? How had they become these terrifying beings who destroyed worlds without mercy? Oh Jinwoo worked feverishly to decode more of the Void Dominion communications now that he understood their human origin. What he found made him sick to his stomach. Their messages contained references to the Great Correction and the temporal cleansing. "They are not trying to conquer us," he whispered. "They are trying to erase us completely." In their timeline, humanity became something that even they were afraid of. So they decided to come back and make sure we never exist at all. The pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. The future humans had developed incredible technology that allowed them to travel through time and space, but something had gone wrong in their timeline. They had become conquerors who destroyed everything in their path until they realized they had become monsters. Rather than try to change their own society, they had decided on a more drastic solution. They would travel back in time and prevent their past selves from ever developing into the threat they had become. It was the ultimate act of self-hatred. Dr. Lim found more evidence in the wreckage computer. Fragments that contained data about the future timeline showed images of human worlds turned into machine factories. Billions of people living as slaves to their own technology, a civilization that had conquered entire galaxies but lost its soul in the process. The future humans had realized too late that their path of endless expansion and conquest had turned them into exactly the kind of monsters they had once fought against. So they built time machines and came back to commit genocide against their own species, but there was hope hidden in the horror. If the future humans were so afraid of what present-day humanity might become, then perhaps the current generation had potential beyond imagining. The question was whether they could unlock that potential before their dark future selves completed their mission of erasure. Commander Bay gathered her team around the central display as they processed this world-changing information. "We are fighting ourselves," she said slowly, "dry. Own descendants who became so ashamed of what they had done that they decided to murder their own ancestors. That not all," Jinwoo said, studying more intercepted communications. "I found references to something they call the human spirit. They seem to think we possess something. They lost something that makes us dangerous to their plans." "What kind of something?" asked Dr. Limmy. "I'm not sure yet, but they keep mentioning emotions, creativity, unpredictability. Things that they seem to view as weaknesses in themselves, but threats." And U.S. Chief Engineer Park Hyejin had been quietly analyzing the technical data while the others talked. Her findings added another piece to the puzzle. "Their technology is incredible, but it limited," she announced. They built everything according to rigid rules with no room for innovation or creative thinking. So they became more advanced, but less human. Dr. Lim said, "Exactly. And that might be our only advantage." The team worked through the night analyzing every piece of evidence they had gathered. The picture that emerged was both terrifying and inspiring. The Void Dominion represented humanity, darkest possible future. But their very existence proved that humans had incredible potential if they could figure out how to develop their abilities without losing their humanity. They might be able to not only defeat their dark future selves, but also ensure that the timeline never produced such monsters in the first place. Commander Bay prepared to return to Earth with news that would shake human civilization to its core. They were not fighting aliens. They were fighting to determine what kind of species humanity would become. The war was not just for the present, but for the soul of humanity itself. Battle for tomorrow had begun. The truth about the Void Dominion spread through human space like electricity, jumping from world to world and person to person. Instead of causing panic and despair, the revelation sparked something unexpected in the human spirit. Determination, like nothing anyone had ever seen before. If these dark future humans were so afraid of what present-day humanity could become, then perhaps the current generation was far more powerful than they had ever imagined. People across dozens of worlds began to look at themselves differently, wondering what incredible potential might be sleeping inside ordinary human beings. Engineer Park Hyun-woo led research teams on 17 different planets studying the hybrid technology that had been left behind after Void Dominion attacks. Each piece told a story of human innovation, taken to impossible heights, but also of humanity that had lost something essential along the way. Working 18-hour days in laboratories across Human Space Park, Hyun-woo and his team slowly began to understand the patterns hidden in the future technology. The Void Dominion had kept certain human innovations, but abandoned others. Most importantly, they had lost the ability to work together as a team. Look at their ship designs, Park Hyun-woo explained to a gathering of engineers and scientists on Mars Station. Every component is perfectly engineered, but there are no redundancy, no backup systems, no creative solutions to unexpected problems. They forgot how to improvise. Tactical analyst Jung Yerim had been studying battle recordings from every human encounter with Void Dominion forces. Her findings supported Park Hyun-woo discoveries. "Their battle formations are flawless," she announced during a military strategy meeting. "But they completely predictable." She activated a holographic display showing the movement patterns of Void Dominion ships during attacks. "They fight like computer programs, perfectly coordinated but following the same patterns every single time. They have forgotten how to adapt, how to think creatively on the battlefield." Admiral Cho Yuna leaned forward in her chair, studying the tactical data. "What are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that they became more advanced, but less human," Jung Yerim replied. "They gained incredible technology, but they lost the spark of creativity and unpredictability that makes us human. And that might be our only advantage." Captain Song Dae-hyun volunteered to test this theory, leading a small fleet of 12 human ships in what would become humanity first real counterattack. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on like every previous battle, he planned something the future humans would never expect. His ships used guerrilla tactics, borrowed from ancient Earth warfare, hit and run attacks that struck without warning and disappeared before the enemy could respond. Feints and deceptions that confused and frustrated the Void Dominion forces. The Battle of the Asteroid Fields became legendary in human history. Song Daehyun ships hid among the floating rocks, using the natural cover to launch surprise attacks against a single Void Dominion vessel. The enemy ship had weapons that could destroy planets, but it could not hit targets that refused to fight fair. For 3 hours, the human ships danced through the asteroid field like dolphins playing in ocean waves. They struck and vanished until the mighty Void Dominion battleship began making mistakes, firing at shadows, turning to face attacks that never came, leaving itself exposed to real strikes from unexpected directions. When the alien ship finally exploded in a ball of purple fire, the cheer that went up across human space could be heard on every world. For the first time since the war began, human ships had destroyed a Void Dominion vessel. The victory was small, but its impact was enormous. Dr. Kim Nari, working in a research facility on Europa, made the next breakthrough while studying fragments of the destroyed enemy ship. Her discovery would change everything humans thought they knew about their own potential. The hybrid technology responded to human emotions in ways that the future humans had apparently forgotten. Love, hope, determination, anger, fear. All of these feelings created measurable energy patterns that interfaced with the advanced systems. She called her research team together to witness the first test. Dr. Kim placed her hands on a piece of alien technology while thinking about her daughter who lived on Earth. The metal began to glow brighter than it ever had before. Energy readings spiked beyond anything they had recorded. Now think about something that makes you angry. She instructed her assistant, Dr. Lee Min-seo. He focused on the destroyed colonies, on the families that had been lost. And the alien fragment began to pulse with different colors. The energy output changed completely, taking on new characteristics. Human emotions were not just random chemical reactions in the brain. They were a form of energy that could power technology in ways the cold, logical future humans had forgotten. In their quest for perfect efficiency, the Void Dominion had cut themselves off from the very source of human power. Word of Dr. Kim discoveries spread to research teams across human space. Within days, scientists were experimenting with emotion-powered weapons shields that grew stronger when their operators felt protective of their loved ones, engines that ran faster when their pilots felt the joy of flying. The breakthrough came when pilot Choi Woo-jin discovered he could interface directly with captured alien technology through pure willpower. His fighter plane became an extension of himself, moving and reacting faster than anything the Void Dominion had ever encountered. During a test flight above Mars, Choi Woo-jin's plane began to respond to his thoughts before he even touched the controls. When he felt the need to turn left, the ship turned left. When he wanted to climb, the engines fired automatically. It was as if the machine could read his mind. They have forgotten what it means to be human, Choi Woo-jin explained to his squadron after landing. We fight with our hearts, with our instincts, with our dreams that something no amount of future technology can replicate, because they threw away the very thing that makes technology truly powerful. Training programs began on every human world, as people learned to tap into abilities they never knew. They possessed. Children who had grown up playing video games found they could control multiple systems simultaneously. Through thought alone, artists discovered their creativity could reshape matter at the molecular level. Musicians learned that harmony and rhythm could synchronize entire fleets, making hundreds of ships move. As one musician like Park Soo-jin found that when she played her violin, the resonance could actually strengthen the hulls of nearby spacecraft. The frequency of human music had power that transcended physics. But the most important discovery was made by a little girl named Kim Yuna on the farming world of New Harvest. She was only 7 years old, but when she held a piece of alien technology and thought about her pet rabbit, the metal formed itself into a perfect sculpture of the animal. Adults can do this too, her mother realized. But we overthink everything. Children just feel and act without questioning whether something is possible or not. The Void Dominion had spent centuries perfecting logic and efficiency, but they had forgotten the power of innocence and wonder, the ability to believe that impossible things could happen simply because someone wanted them to happen badly enough. As more humans learned to tap into these abilities, the tide of war began to change. Enemy ships that had seemed invincible started experiencing system failures when faced with human pilots who fought with pure emotion. Weapons that could destroy moons jammed when confronted by human determination. The future humans began to retreat for the first time, pulling back from several systems as human forces pressed their advantage. But their leader, known only as the Final Authority, had been watching these developments with growing alarm. In the cold depths of space aboard the largest Void Dominion ship ever built, the Final Authority made a decision that would lead to the ultimate confrontation. It had underestimated its ancestors, assuming they would be weak and easily defeated. Now it realized that present-day humans possessed something far more dangerous than advanced technology. They had the power of the human spirit intact and undamaged, and that power was growing stronger every day. The Final Authority began preparing its ultimate weapon, not just to destroy human worlds but to erase the entire human timeline from existence. If it could not defeat its ancestors in battle, then it would simply ensure they never existed at all. But humanity was awakening to powers that even their dark future selves had forgotten. The war was far from over and the greatest battles still lay ahead. News of the alien battleship spread across human space faster than wildfire, jumping from colony to colony through the communication networks. Every human settlement, from the core worlds to the frontier outposts, received the same terrifying message. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their new neighbors wanted them dead. Admiral Cho Yuna stood in the main command center on Earth, watching dozens of screens showing human colonies across the galaxy. Red warning lights blinked on, world after world, as more alien ships appeared. Each ship was just as massive and terrifying as the first one Captain Lee Minho had encountered. The emergency meeting of all colonial governors filled the largest conference room in the solar government. Building representatives from 57 human worlds gathered either in person or through holographic projection. Their faces showed the same mixture of fear and determination that had carried humanity from cave dwellers to star travelers. Admiral Cho activated the main display, and the room fell completely silent as they watched the recording from the Terra Pride. The destruction of the moon played out in horrifying detail, and several governors gasped when they saw the massive alien vessel. We have confirmed sightings of 17 more ships just like this one. Admiral Cho announced, her voice cutting through the shocked silence. They are moving through inhabited systems, destroying everything in their path. The Kepler colony tried to fight back with everything they had. There are no survivors. Governor Park Jin-woo from the farming world of New Seoul raised his hand. What do they want? He asked. Are they trying to conquer us or communicate with us? Admiral Cho shook her head grimly. They have sent us one message repeated on all frequencies. It was short and simple. All lesser species must bow or die. They call themselves the Void Dominion, and they view us as nothing more than pests to be eliminated. The aliens had been watching humanity for decades, studying their technology, their weaknesses, their military capabilities. They had waited until human colonies were spread thin across dozens of worlds before striking. Now they moved through space like a plague, turning thriving settlements into lifeless rocks. Dr. Kang Min-jae, humanity top physicist, had been studying the weapon readings since the Terra Pride returned. His findings were not encouraging. The energy output is impossible, he said, addressing the gathered leaders. Our strongest planetary shields would not last 5 seconds against that kind of firepower. But how is that possible? Asked Governor Kim Soo-jin from the mining world of Titan Base. Our technology has advanced so much in the last century. Dr. Kang pulled up energy comparison charts on his tablet. Their weapons operate on principles we do not understand. They seem to draw power directly from space itself, converting matter into pure energy. We would need months, maybe years, to develop countermeasures, and we have days at most. Young pilot Seo Hana had volunteered for the most dangerous job in human space. She led reconnaissance missions in small, fast ships, trying to get close enough to the alien vessels to gather intelligence. What she discovered in those first few days made everyone's blood run cold. The Void Dominion was not just destroying human colonies. They were harvesting something from the planets themselves. Each world they attacked was stripped of all life, and then subjected to some kind of energy drain that left the planets completely dead. Even the soil became lifeless dust that could never support life again. Captain, this is insane. Hana reported during one of her scouting runs. They are not just killing people. They are killing entire worlds, making them permanently uninhabitable. It's like they are feeding on the life force itself. The reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. The industrial world of Prometheus fell in 3 hours, despite having the most advanced defense system in human space. The research colony on Europa managed to evacuate half its population before the aliens arrived, but the other half simply vanished without a trace. Admiral Cho found herself commanding a war against an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. The mighty fleets that humanity had built over centuries of space expansion were being swept aside like toys. Human battleships that had taken decades to build were destroyed in minutes by weapons they could not even understand, but the worst part was not the military defeats. It was the growing realization that humanity was completely outclassed. Every strategy, every weapon, every defense they tried was useless against technology that might as well have been Magic Commander. Base Omen led the defense of the agricultural world New Eden with every ship she could gather. Her fleet of 30 vessels faced 3 Void Dominion battleships in what became known as the Battle of the Green Fields. "We have families down there," she transmitted to her fleet as the alien ships approached. "We have children and farmers and teachers. We are not going to let these monsters take another world without a fight." The human ships fought with desperate courage, using every tactic in their books. They tried coordinated attacks, hit-and-run strikes, even ramming attacks when their weapons proved useless. But it was like throwing stones at mountains. The alien ships absorbed everything humanity could throw at them and kept coming. New Eden fell like all the others. Its green fields turned to ash, its cities reduced to rubble. Its people simply gone. The evacuation ships that tried to flee were picked off one by one, until none remained. Dr. Oh Jinwoo worked day and night trying to decode Void Dominion communications. He was humanity's best linguist with expertise in 12 human languages and 3 alien communication systems that had been discovered in ancient ruins. But the Void Dominion signals were unlike anything he had ever encountered. "Their communication patterns are strange," he reported to Admiral Cho. "They use mathematical structures that suggest incredibly advanced intelligence. But there's something else. Something familiar about the base patterns." "What do you mean familiar?" Admiral Cho asked. "I cannot explain it yet, but there are elements in their language that remind me of ancient human mathematical theories, things that our ancestors worked on thousands of years ago. But that impossible. Hope seemed lost. As more and more human worlds went dark, the communication networks that had connected dozens of colonies for centuries were being cut one by one. Each world that fell took with it millions of people, centuries of human achievement and dreams that would never be fulfilled. The refugees who managed to escape painted pictures of horror that haunted everyone who heard them. Families torn apart in the evacuation. Children asking why the bad aliens wanted to hurt them. Adults weeping for homes and loved ones they would never see again. Governor Lee Jisoo from the frontier world of Last Hope sent what might have been humanity's final message to Earth. "We can see their ships approaching our system now. We have maybe 6 hours before they arrive. We want everyone to know that we tried our best. We tried to live up to the dreams our ancestors had when they first looked at the stars. But even in the darkest hour, when it seemed like humanity would be wiped from the galaxy forever, there were people who refused to give up." Dr. Lim Taehyung was investigating the wreckage of destroyed human ships, looking for clues about how the alien weapons worked. What he found hidden in the ruins of a research station would change everything. But that discovery was still days away, and each day more worlds burned. In the meantime, humanity could only watch as their civilization crumbled before an enemy that seemed to come from their worst nightmares. The galaxy that had once seemed so full of promise and wonder had become a hunting ground, and humanity was the prey. Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the human exploration ship Terra Pride, watching the endless stars through the big screen in front of him. The stars looked peaceful and beautiful, like tiny diamonds scattered across black silk. His crew had been mapping this quiet corner of space for 3 long months, finding nothing but empty planets and floating rocks. The work was boring, but important. Someone had to chart the unknown regions of space so that future human colonies could expand safely. Lee Min-ho had done this job for 10 years, and he loved the quiet moments when he could just watch the universe spin around them. Everything seemed normal until Communications Officer Park Ji-soo suddenly sat up straight in her chair. Her fingers flew across her control panel and her face went white as snow. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking like a leaf in the wind. "We have something big approaching from deep space." Really big. Lee Min-ho walked over to her station and looked at the readings on her screen. The numbers made no sense at first. The computer was showing a massive object moving toward them, but the size readings had to be wrong. Nothing could be that large and still move through space. "Show me on the main screen," he ordered, and the bridge crew all turned to look. The stars on the screen shifted as their cameras focused on the approaching object. What they saw made everyone stop breathing. A massive ship was coming toward them from the darkness between stars. It was unlike anything humans had ever built or even imagined. The vessel stretched for kilometers in every direction, covered in dark metal that seemed to eat light itself. Strange symbols glowed along its sides in patterns that made their eyes hurt when they looked directly at them. The alien ship moved through space like a giant sea creature swimming through dark water. It had no visible engines or exhaust, but it glided forward with terrifying grace. Navigation Officer Kim Soo-ho checked his instruments 3 times before speaking. "Captain, this thing is bigger than our entire home station. Back on Earth, our largest space stations could hold 1 million people, but this ship could probably hold 100 million. Park." Ji-soo tried every communication frequency they had. She broadcast greetings in 12 different human languages and even tried mathematical patterns that any intelligent species should understand. But the alien ship gave them nothing but silence. It just kept coming closer, and closer, like death itself approaching. The crew watched in growing fear as the massive battleship slowly turned toward their small exploration vessel. They felt like ants watching an elephant turn its attention to them. The alien ship was so big that their entire vessel could fit inside one of its weapon ports. "Sir," whispered Navigator Kim Soo-ho, his voice barely audible. "The computer is detecting massive energy buildups across their hull. I think those glowing parts are weapons, and they are all pointing at us." But Lee Min-ho was wrong. The alien ship was not targeting them yet. Instead, it turned toward a small moon that orbited nearby. The moon was just a ball of rock and ice with no life on it. But what happened next would haunt the crew forever. The alien weapons fired without any warning or sound in the vacuum of space. Purple beams of energy lashed out from the dark ship and touched the moon. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the entire moon just disappeared, not exploded or broken apart, but completely vanished as if it had never existed at all. Only empty space remained where a celestial body had been moments before. The message was crystal clear: surrender or face the same fate. Captain Min-ho felt ice form in his stomach as he realized what they had just witnessed. This was not first contact with a peaceful alien civilization. This was an encounter with something that could erase entire worlds with a casual gesture. Their little exploration ship would not even slow down those terrible weapons. "All crew prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace," he ordered, his voice steady, despite the fear clawing at his heart. "We leave now." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, even though their hands were shaking. Engineer Park Hee-jin worked frantically to charge their hyperspace engines while pilot Seo Hana plotted the fastest course back to human space. The alien ship did not try to stop them, but Lee Min-ho could feel it watching as they prepared to flee. As their ship jumped into hyperspace and the stars stretched into lines around them. The crew sat in shocked silence. They had gone out looking for new worlds to explore. Instead, they had found something that viewed humanity as nothing more than insects, to be crushed. The journey back to Earth would take 2 days, but it felt like an eternity. Each crew member kept thinking about that moon disappearing in a flash of purple light. How many people could have lived on a world that size? How many dreams and hopes had just been erased from existence? Communications Officer Park Ji-soo worked non-stop during the trip, sending emergency messages ahead to Earth Defense Command. She transmitted every scan, every image, every piece of data they had collected about the alien battleship. The information would reach Earth hours before they did, giving the military time to prepare. But prepare for what? How do you fight something that can make moons disappear? How do you negotiate with beings that answer friendly greetings with demonstrations of world-ending power? Navigator Kim Soo-ho spent hours analyzing the alien ship's movement patterns, trying to predict where it might go next. His calculations were terrifying. The ship was moving toward the outer human colonies, following the same trade routes that connected all of humanity's space. It was not wandering randomly. It knew exactly where it was going. Dr. Lim Tai-hyung, the ship's science officer, studied the energy readings from the weapon that had destroyed the moon. The numbers made no sense. The amount of power required should have torn the alien ship apart, but somehow their technology could handle energies that human science said were impossible. As they finally approached Earth, everyone on the bridge felt a mixture of relief and dread. They were home and safe for now, but they all knew that safety was temporary. The thing they had encountered in deep space was coming, and it would not stop until it had visited every human world. The Terra Pride docked at Luna Station, and within minutes military personnel swarmed aboard. Captain Lee Min-ho found himself in a briefing room with Admiral Cho Yuna, the head of Earth Defense Forces. She listened to his report with a face like carved stone. "How long do we have?" she asked when he finished. Kim Soo-ho had done the calculations. Based on its current speed and course, it will reach the first outer colonies in 6 days. 6 days to prepare for something that could erase worlds. 6 days to find a way to fight an enemy that treated moons like target practice. 6 days before humanity would face its first real test as a spacefaring civilization. The crew of the Terra Pride had changed history that day. They had seen something that would force humanity to grow up fast or die trying. The peaceful age of exploration was over. The age of survival had begun. Armed with new understanding of their enemy and their own hidden potential, humanity began to fight back with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. The war that had seemed hopeless just months before was now being fought on equal terms as humans discovered powers they never knew they possessed. Fleet Admiral Han Subin stood in the command center of the massive battleship Terra Invictus, coordinating attacks across 12 star systems simultaneously. Her forces moved with the unpredictable creativity that the future humans had lost, striking where the enemy least expected and vanishing before retaliation could come. The breakthrough had come when pilot Choi Woo-jin discovered he could interface directly with hybrid technology through pure willpower. His fighter became an extension of his very soul, moving and reacting faster than anything the Void Dominion had ever encountered. Soon other pilots across human space were learning the same incredible technique. "We fight differently than they do," Woo-jin explained to his expanded squadron during a training session on Luna Base. "They calculate every move, we feel our way through battle. They follow programs, we follow our hearts. That the difference between victory and defeat." His squadron had grown from 12 pilots to over 300 as word spread of the new fighting techniques. They called themselves the Spirit Riders, and their ships danced through space battles like living things. Their fighters moved in patterns that no computer could predict because they were guided by human intuition rather than cold logic. Dr. Kim Nari research into emotion-powered technology had created weapons that grew stronger as their operators became more determined to protect their loved ones, shields that blazed brighter when their controllers felt hope, engines that burned hotter when their pilots felt the joy of flying free among the stars. But the real breakthrough came from the children. Young Seo Ji-won was only 9 years old when she discovered she could make alien technology respond to her drawings. When she sketched pictures of flowers, the metal would reshape itself into beautiful blooms. When she drew pictures of birds, tiny mechanical creatures would flutter out of the transformed material. Adults had to train for weeks to achieve basic control over hybrid technology, but children could do it naturally. They had not yet learned that certain things were supposed to be impossible. Their minds were open to wonders that older humans had to struggle to accept. Training centers for these gifted children opened on every human world. Young people like Park Minju and Kim Dong-yeon learned to turn their imagination into reality-shaping matter and energy. Through the power of pure creativity, the future humans had abandoned imagination in favor of logic, but present-day humanity still remembered how to dream. The war began to change, as human forces pressed their advantage, using abilities that the Void Dominion could not understand or counter enemy ships that had seemed invincible, started experiencing massive system failures when faced with human opponents who fought with their hearts instead of just their heads. Captain Lee Ji-woo led the liberation of the mining world. Kepler Prime using tactics that would have made no sense to a computer but worked perfectly for human minds. His fleet approached the enemy not in formation, but in what looked like complete chaos. Each ship following its captain instincts rather than a predetermined battle plan. The Void Dominion forces tried to respond to the attack, but they could not predict what the humans would do next, because the humans themselves did not know. They were improvising moment by moment, letting their creativity guide them through impossible situations. When Lee Ji-woo's flagship suddenly dove toward the planet's surface, the enemy ships moved to intercept, expecting a crash landing. Instead, his ship skimmed the atmosphere using the planet's gravity to slingshot around and attack from behind. The maneuver was so crazy that no tactical computer would have suggested it, but it worked perfectly. One by one, human worlds that had been occupied or destroyed were being liberated. The Void Dominion began to retreat for the first time in the war, pulling back from several systems as human forces proved they could not only fight, but win. Dr. Oh Jinwoo had continued his work decoding enemy communications, and what he discovered filled him with both hope and dread. The future humans were arguing among themselves for the first time in centuries. Some of them were beginning to remember what they had lost. There are dissidents in their ranks, he reported to Admiral Cho Yuna. Some of them are questioning whether their mission is right. They are starting to remember what it felt like to be truly human, but not all of them were changing. Communications expert Lee Jung-ho intercepted a series of messages that chilled everyone who heard them. The leader of the Void Dominion, the being known as the Final Authority, was preparing something called the Ultimate Correction, according to the intercepted data. This was not just another weapon, but a device capable of unmaking entire timelines. The Final Authority had realized it could not defeat its ancestors in direct combat, so it would simply ensure humanity never had a chance to exist at all. The plan was horrifying in its simplicity. The Final Authority would position its ultimate weapon near Earth's sun and destabilize the star itself, causing it to go supernova. The explosion would not only destroy all life in the solar system, but would send shockwaves through time that would prevent human civilization from ever developing. We have maybe 2 weeks before they are in position, Admiral Cho announced to the Emergency Council. 2 weeks to save not just ourselves but our entire species across all of history. The final battle was coming, and it would be fought not just for the present but for all of human history. Every choice, every dream, every hope that had ever existed hung in the balance. Humanity had awakened to its true potential. But would it be enough to save not just themselves, but their entire timeline? Captain Song Dae-hyun volunteered to lead the assault on the weapon platform, while the main fleet engaged the Void Dominion battleships in what promised to be the largest space battle in human history. The fighting would be fierce, with ships from both timelines pushing their technology and their crews to the breaking point. But the real battle would be fought on a deeper level, a battle for the soul of humanity itself, between what humans could become if they chose the path of conquest and power, and what they could become if they remembered to stay human. Young pilot Seo Hana had grown from a reconnaissance specialist into one of humanity's greatest warriors. Her ship now responded to her thoughts and emotions like a living thing. She would be leading the fighter squadrons in the final assault, knowing that the future of all humanity depended on their success. The stakes could not be higher. If they failed, not only would present-day humanity be destroyed, but their entire timeline would be erased as if it had never existed. But if they succeeded, they would prove that the human spirit was stronger than any technology, that creativity and love and hope could overcome even the darkest possible future. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine whether humanity's future would be one of darkness and conquest like the Void Dominion, or something far more beautiful and bright. The final battle would begin soon, and when it ended, either humanity would be extinct across all of time, or they would have proven that some things are more powerful than even time travel and world-destroying weapons, the power of being human.